Hello guys, Marco Landry here, and in this video I'm going to document the process of installing the TST velocity stack on my Yamaha R3. At the same time, I'm also going to install the MWR Racing Air Filter, and while I'm doing all of this, I'm also going to modify the airbox on the bike to optimize and maximize the airflow to the engine. So if that's something of interest, stay right there and you will get started right now. Before we get started, a few things I want to mention. So that air filter from MWR is a reusable filter. When you purchase it, you can purchase the chemicals to clean and to re-oil the filter. In my case, to get this shipped from the US to Canada is always painful. So what I do normally, I'd simply order the air filter. I'll order a few of them, but I don't order the chemicals. I'm simply using some soapy water and I let it soak in the soapy water, just like rub my fingers on it, clean it up, let it dry overnight. After that, I take some WD-40, spray it on top and underneath, just press on that sponge, let the WD-40 be absorbed from that sponge. After that, I just take a paper towel and just remove the excess, and that's how I oil my filter. You don't have to do it this way. Obviously, you can follow the process that MWR is recommending in the little user guide or on their website. So you do what you want. That process seems to be working well for me, and it's a fraction of the price. So I like it because I can save a bit of money. But there's two options for this. There's the road version and also the race version. This is the race version. And the main reason why you want to install this air filter, it's because it will optimize the airflow going to the engine. And the last thing I want to mention is that the filter comes already pre-oiled, so it's plug and play. You open the bag, you put it in, and you're done. So that's for the air filter from MWR. It comes with a decal that will probably end up here at some point soon. And it comes with, I believe these are instructions. Actually, there's no instruction with it. Well, actually, not true. The instructions are on the bag. So when you get the filter, don't discard your bag. The instructions are all there. The other thing that I will be installing are the TST velocity stack. I currently have those on this bike. I'm going to install this on the bike that's right beside the camera here that you'll see in a few minutes. So the process to install these TST velocity stack is super easy. You don't need any special tools to install this. It's a super simple process. The most complex part of that process will be to remove the bodywork and the tank from, or the fuel tank from the bike, but it's super easy to install. And this is a very inexpensive modification to gain some extra horsepower on your bike. TST is claiming that by installing these and having a proper exhaust and a properly tuned bike, that you can expect to have a 5% peak power increase by having this with the filter and the exhaust. So that's a considerable gain from the OEM setup. So after all this work is done, before reinstalling the airbox, I will take the side covers for the airbox. I will drill them and take my Dremel and open up the side of the airbox cover to increase the air going through or going in the airbox. If you are not comfortable doing this work for the drilling and opening up the side cover of the airbox, you can also, for $97 US, order the modified airbox cover from TST. So in my case, I'm very comfortable doing this. I have a Dremel, I have a drill, I have some saws, I have all the tools needed to do this work. I'll show you how this work is done. But again, if you are not comfortable doing any of this work and you don't want to have the headache of doing the work, you can, for $97, order those parts from TST. All right, so you can see here that the bodywork has been removed. I was doing some wiring work and I'm not quite done yet. So I'm gonna leave the wiring like this for now, and I'll remove the tank, and after that we will be able to remove the air box that's located right here. So first step first, 10mm socket and wrench, and you can undo the 2 bolts that are in the back of the tank here, and there are 2 in front as well here. So these are the 2 bolts in front here, and these are the 2 in the back. All right, so I'm gonna remove the first 2 in the front, and we'll do the 1 in the rear after. So when you're doing this, you probably want to make sure that you keep lifting the tank a bit, because this thing will have a tendency to collapse in the back. So just make sure that you apply a bit of upward pressure or pulling towards the ceiling, so that this thing just doesn't collapse in the back here. It's a bit easier to unthread or undo those bolts. And once this is done, you'll want to get some paper towel, because we will unplug the fuel pump. So I just have a bit of paper towel here. Gonna lift this up, put this underneath here, and there is an electrical connection that we will have to undo first. So what I like to do here is there's 2 little tabs on the bracket in the back, so you can just put it under the crossbar in the frame, and it should hold everything in place so that you can put your hand underneath without getting your finger a pinch. And this electrical connection here has a little tab, so it's simply a matter of pressing on that tab and pulling down. And the fuel line that's connected, the fuel pump, is on the other side. So I'm just going to navigate on this side here, and same thing here for this one. It's a bit trickier. You have to push a brown tab out of the way. And even though I've done this a million times, it's always a bit challenging. So what you want is push the brown tab away, or the brown clip away, and after that press on the tabs. And you might have to wiggle that hose around a little bit, and then you can press on both sides, on both tabs, and pull towards the front of the bike. And here we go. So now the gas is flowing. So not going to be a lot of gas, but there's definitely going to be enough to soak that paper towel, or those 2 pieces of paper towel. So once this is done, the electrical connection has been disconnected, the fuel line has been disconnected. You can simply remove the tank. But you can see on the right side, this is where the fuel line is connecting, and on the other side you have the electrical connector. And this little gray tab here is going to be used when you're putting this on the ground. The middle tab will prevent the damages to the little 90-degree coupler for the gas line. Okay, so this is the fuel line here, and you can see the tab is here, and there's one on the other side as well. So this orange brown locking mechanism is typically up like this. And when you want to disconnect your fuel pump, you have to bring this piece down and clip or press on those tabs on both sides, and you can pull away from the 90-degree elbow on the fuel tank. So this is the electrical connector I was talking about. So in order to undo this electrical connector from the fuel tank, you simply need to press on this button here, or this tab I mean, and pull down. So it's going to be like this. You simply press with your thumb and can pull down. So that's how you dismantle the fuel tank. And make sure again that you have a paper towel here so that the gas or the fuel can fall on this piece of paper towel. Okay, so the next step now is to remove the air box. So the air box is right here. You will have to remove this bolt here. There's one on the air side as well. And there are some clamps. There are two clamps. There's one here. So it's hard to see, but the clamp is right here. So you have to undo this clamp that is attaching the air box to the throttle body. So it might be a bit easier to see here, but it's right behind that cable here, so you can see barely, but where my finger is there. So this is the velocity stack that's attaching to the throttle body. So you have to undo this on both sides. And to undo this, this is a 10mm on this side, and same thing on the other side as well. So you simply have to undo these two bolts. So I'll undo this one on this side as well. Okay, so now the two clamps have been loosened up. The two bolts are removed. Now, if you still have your AIS system, you will need to unconnect that AIS pump from the air box. And there's also one small hose that goes from the air box to the throttle body that has to be removed as well. So let's remove these hoses here. So typically your AIS hose would be right here. You can see mine has been capped already. So normally you would have your AIS pump right here. So mine has been removed, but the AIS pump would be in this area. And from there, if I move towards the back of the bike here, you can see that the air box is here and that hose would be connected right here. So basically if I go up here, the air box is here, the AIS hose would go from here to the front right here to your AIS pump. In my case, all of this has already been removed. The next thing that you want to disconnect after that is right here in the bottom here of the air box. So if I zoom out a bit here so you can see the air box is here, and when I come here where my pliers are, this is the little clip that you want to undo right here. And once you undo this little clip, it might be a bit tough to do with one hand here. Here we go. So you undo this clip, and then you can take your pliers. I have these special pliers here that I'm using. So I'm gonna take this hose here, and I'm gonna stretch this on top of that hose, and we're just gonna wiggle this until it comes out. So there we go. So once you remove the two hoses on the right side, on the left side there's also another hose that goes from the air box to the crankcase. So on the right hand side right here, you can see this is a bit hard to see here. Let's see if I can do this with a screwdriver. So this is the hose here that's typically connected to the air box right here. So I've simply removed the retaining clamp and I've pulled that hose so that the air box is now free to move. So you also have to disconnect this before removing the air box. So now, once this is done, you can simply push the airbox towards the back so that the funnels or your stacks are disconnecting from the throttle body, and then you can lift up gently and wiggle this up here, and you have the airbox that is now free. So when you look at this, this is where the throttle body is connecting here. These are the two clamps that I was talking about, and you have the AIS system that would typically be connected here. So you can see that I've capped mine. I put a little clip on it. You can safety wire this if you want to. And now this is the one that goes from the throttle body assembly to the airbox, and this one is the one that is going to the crankcase, and this one is capped. We have the airbox, and I can remove these clips because they won't be needed anymore. And now we want to disassemble the covers on both sides. So it's simply a matter of using a Phillips screwdriver, and we're going to remove all these screws here. So this is the first side. We can take off the air filter, and this is not going to be needed anymore. And we'll remove the screws on the other side as well. There's going to be a few more on this side, obviously, which is fine. And we want to remove this again because I want to drill some holes and open up this area here, and same thing on this side, so there's going to be more air flowing into the airbox. And I know this is obvious, but the goal of this is really to increase the airflow and maximize performance. And as I mentioned during the intro, you can always order the pre-drilled model from TST, and this way you don't have to do all of this extra work. But I figured that if I can save $97 and do it myself, and this is not the part that will be visible, it's buried under the tank or the bodywork, so no one will really see this. So I don't care if it's not perfect, because no one will see it. All right, so now you can see what it looks like. You have your two stacks here. These are rubber, they're fairly cheap, so the one that we're going to replace them with are much better quality. They're very solid, and they are supposed to increase the airflow. In talking about maximizing the airflow, I'm also going to remove the snorkel, and in order to remove the snorkel, I'm simply going to take one of these, I don't even know the name of this thing in English, but one of these things here, or you can also take a flat blade screwdriver or a little sharp blade and just wiggle it underneath and just break that seal there. This is some type of goop in there, just to make sure that it stays there nice and solid. And I don't really care if I damage the snorkel because I'm not going to reuse it. So you can apply a bit of force on it and just try to pry this off. Here we go. And once this is removed, you can just use that spatula or whatever to name the tool here to remove the extra gunk. Make sure that this stuff doesn't flow into your airbox. So you want to make sure that there's nothing in there that can fly into your throttle bodies, especially when you're changing the air filter and everything is exposed. Alright, so this is nice and clean here. I'll blow some air in this at the end once I'm done, but for now it's okay. And we're going to repeat the same process here to remove these stacks. You don't have to be super careful if you don't plan on reusing this. In my case, it's going to go straight in the garbage. But if you decide to eventually rebuild your bike into its street legal state, then you can probably take your time and make sure that you don't damage anything so that you can reuse these components. Alright, so we have one down. Gonna clean this up in a few minutes here, but let's do the other one first. Alright, so now we just have to clean that extra gunk here. Make sure that none of this is gonna stay there. Right. So this is nice and clean. I'm happy with that. Now the next step will be to start drilling this area here and opening up this side, and same thing on the other side. Okay, so now I'm gonna take different size of drill bits and see what's the biggest hole I can make, and I'm going to use this just as a pilot, and after that I'll either take a little saw or a little cutting disc on my Dremel and I'll finish it with the Dremel after. The other side, and then we'll start cleaning things up a bit more. So what I'm doing here is that I'm basically just going inside of these little lines. I'm going to keep this structural part there. I'm just going to remove the top portion. What you could do as well, if you're very good with a saw, you could just chop off the top at an angle here as well, and that would do the same thing. In my case, I don't really have like a good saw that would be able to do this, so I'm gonna do it this way because it's a bit easier for me and I'm more equipped to do it this way. Okay folks, so I completed the process. It took a bit more time than expected, but it turned out to be okay. So this is what it looks like on one side, and this is what the other side looks like. So basically, after drilling, I just took a little knife like this here, and I just kept grinding the sides until it became fairly nice. And after that I use a file, and I had like some of the smaller one as well, the needle files. So I use a combo of all of this with a bit of sandpaper, and this is the final outcome. So we are now all set to install the velocity stack. So basically you just unscrew this part here and you will insert the curve stack on the far end and this one on the side closer to you. When you do this, obviously you'll use the exposed side here where the long cover goes, and you will just basically insert this inside here, and it should look something like this. So it's a bit difficult to see on camera, but what you want is this part here, this funnel. Actually it should look like this. So the funnel here, or the stack, will just protrude a little bit on top of where the air filter will go. So you'll only see this a small portion, so maybe a couple of millimeters at the top. And once you put this in place, we will reattach it with this plastic nut here. But before you do so, TST is recommending to put some goop on, and the goop will simply provide a better adherence for your stacks. So I had to do a bit of digging in the garage here, and I found that I had some goop. I've had it in the garage for so long, I'm not even sure if it's still good or not, but we will give it a try. Not something that I use on a regular basis, so we will see if it's still good. Yeah, it looks still goopy, so it's it's good. So you don't want to put a lot of this stuff. You just want to put it around the flange, and we'll spread it evenly after that. When you do this, try not to put any of that stuff on the treads, and if you do, just clean it as quickly as possible and you'll be fine. And I'm gonna just use something to spread it evenly here. We will now put it in place. And again, before you reinsert this, you want to make sure that the air box is nice and clean. So I'm gonna orient it properly, and after that I'm gonna lock everything in place. And before I go too tight, I'm gonna check to make sure it's properly aligned. And I'm also gonna insert this one. So same thing again, I'm gonna put some goop around it, and again, just a thin layer, don't need to put a lot of it, and we will spread it evenly after that. So this is what it should look like. Again, try to avoid putting any of this stuff on the treads. Not a big deal if you do, but just be ready to clean it as quickly as possible because it's gonna be messy. Put the cap back on, clean that screwdriver, and we will now insert the second stack. This one is easy because it's straight, so not a big challenge. And then we will simply re-screw this in place here. Alright, so I'm gonna make sure the alignment is okay in there and looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna secure everything in place. This is, I think, pretty good. Maybe a bit too high here, so I'm going to twist it just a little bit. And that seems to be okay here. I think the air filter will fit properly on top of that. Everything looks nice and clean inside. And just for good measure, I'm going to take the channel lock pliers here, and I'm going to give it one extra quarter turn to make sure that it's properly secured. Don't want to go too tight, but you definitely want to make sure that it's not gonna come apart. And that should be it. So what I'm going to do as well, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to put just a dot of goop on one side where it's going to be easy to access, and this is just going to secure this in place. So if it ever comes loose, or has a tendency to come loose, that's going to keep it nicely in place. And the nice thing about goop is that it doesn't melt the plastic. It's just more like a silicone type of thing where it just holds everything in place without doing a chemical reaction on the plastic or the PVC. So, all right, we're done. I'm just going to be careful here. I'm going to let it cure for a little bit so that I don't put my fingers in it. But in the meantime, I'm going to be able to put the side cover back on. So we'll put the long one, the long side, or this side, on the air box, and I'm going to screw it back in place. So this is not super sexy here, but again, no one will see this, and it will be much better because there's going to be better airflow. When you reassemble this as well, make sure that you clean this up first. I just took my air gun and blew some air, make sure there was no extra residue in the air box. Okay, so now the next step will be to insert the air filter. There's no specific orientation for this. Either way will work. You just want to make sure that it's inserted properly in that little groove in the air box. And the next step will be to put that cover back on here. If you did remove your AIS system, you will also need to add a cap on that port on the air box. In this case, you can see I simply have a little clip to keep it in place. You can always use some safety wire if you don't have a clip. And if you don't have a cap, you can just simply cut your hose very short and then flip the end and tack it in place with some safety wire. Okay, so I'm now ready to reinstall the air box. Before doing so, I want to make sure that all the clips are properly located on the hoses, because I want to make sure this is easy to reassemble. So both clips are here. These are the hoses that will reconnect on the air box, and these are the clips that will hold everything in place. So this is at the right location. I got the clips. Everything is clean here in my throttle body. There's no dust, there's no gunk, there's no extra pieces. So make sure this is nice and clean before you reinstall the air box. And we are now all set to go. So before I reassemble this, I want to make sure that the clips here are properly aligned so that it's going to be easy for me to access when the air box is back at its location. So I'm going to put it here. Yeah, so in this case I want it to be like so. So I'm going to tighten this in place here, because once it's on the bike it's a bit more difficult to align it properly. So I'm gonna snug it so that it stays there when I reinsert everything on the proper location. This one is snug as well. So we're gonna figure out how to put this back here. And when you do this here, you want to make sure that you align your stacks or your funnels with the throttle bodies. Okay, so I've put the air box back in place here. Everything is properly aligned. I have easy access to the bolts for the clips. And I have my 10mm socket with the bolt that will hold the air box in place. So I'm gonna screw this in place here. All right, so this is nice and solid. I'll attach the bolt on the other side. All right, so now I'm gonna simply take my flat blade screwdriver and secure those clamps in place. All right, so this one is nice and secure. I'll do the other side. All right, so now that we have the air box secure, we have the throttle body connection that's been made, we can now proceed with the last step for the air box, which is to reconnect those two hoses. All right, guys, that was it. That was the process to install the new velocity stack, modify the air box, and install the new air filter. I did not cover the AIS removal and the block off plate installation, but if you are modifying your bike for the racetrack for the first time, you should definitely invest some time and money to remove the AIS and also to install the block off plate. So I would probably do all of this at the same time if you're new to the racetrack and you're modifying your bike. I did not cover the process to reinstall the fuel tank because it's basically the reverse order of what we did to remove it. So basically put the tank back on, the air filter here, just don't bolt it in place just yet. You connect your fuel line, you connect your power or your circuit, and then after that you can put it back in place. Make sure that there's no cables or nothing is pinched. You can rebolt it in place and you'll be done. So that's it for now, folks. Hopefully that video was helpful. If it was, please do me a favor, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, post them below or connect with me on social media. And until next time, stay safe, ride safe, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.